Zen fam, I've come to ask you a question. In fact, let me broaden that out if I may. I would like to ask all gamers this question. Are you satisfied? Let me flesh that question out because largely there's going to be a lot of variations of answers. What do you mean satisfied? In what? How do you mean? Oh, no, no. Right. Put it this way, okay? A little while ago on both my Twitter account and in my YouTube communities postings, I put out a couple of polls. Which fan base is more satisfied with their platform? Xbox or PlayStation? Now this wasn't meant to be a dig at either platform. It was to find out which fan base actually felt they were getting maximum joy out of their chosen platform. Were you a PlayStation guy having the most fun, or you were an Xbox guy having the most fun? And obviously the polls were reasonably interesting. There was a good slant towards PlayStation players believing that they were having more fun, they were getting more out of their systems than Xbox players were. And this has been proven out recently by Xbox sales and the disasters that's been when it comes to Xbox and their software libraries over the last sort of couple of years. I mean, we've all seen how it's gone with Redfall and other select titles from the Xbox stables. And now all hopes are pinned on Starfield. And will Starfield be a success? Will Starfield be any good? I mean, Halo was supposed to be the big one, and Halo is like one of the biggest Xbox things there ever is, and it landed with a fun, to say the very least. But going beyond console wars and Xbox and PlayStation, gamers as a whole, are you satisfied? You see, I've noticed something kicking off that I don't think anybody's really spoken about, and that's the split between retro gaming and modern gaming. Now, there's some retro gamers that love their modern games too, and some modern gamers that love their retro games. But sometimes I have to wonder who's actually better off. You see, when you get a retro game on a retro system, you have a complete title. However, it depends on what title you've bought, because there are any number of games you can buy on a retro system, any number of retro systems. I mean, the PlayStation 2 is now considered in some circles to be retro. That's only 23 years ago. So, if they consider that retro, then that means we're at the last point of systems before you could have DLC downloadable updates to a game. Now yes, technically speaking, the PS2, if you bought that little thing that went in the back, there were one or two games, and I literally mean one or two, that can go online and therefore technically could receive updates to the title. But considering the size of the PlayStation 2's hard drive, not so much. Anyway, so you have these games from these systems from 2000 and back. You go all the way back, as far as you like with retro gaming, But all these games you'll buy will all be complete titles, bugs and all. They got bugs? That's partly part of the charm now. Is that people learn how to play around the bugs or use the bugs to facilitate play in some cases. So does that mean that it's better to be a retro gamer? But then, they don't have the stories, they don't have the graphical capacity, they don't have the fidelity of sound and of vision, they don't have the length, they don't have the accessibility options. There's so many modern things that games can have, so many things that games can have in them in the modern day, I should say. make them to be more complete, more immersive, you know, things to be in. You don't just play a game these days, you almost live it, you know. I mean, like behind me you see Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and as I've spoken of before, I played this game for over 240 hours. I was deep in it. Can you really say the same thing for Pizza Pete on the Commodore 16? No. Can you say the same thing for Asteroids? No. Can you say the same thing for getting an original SNES and playing Super Mario World? Probably not. You know, those games are finite. Yes, you can save time, and you can, you know, every once in a while somebody comes along and goes, I've found a secret in this game from 30 years ago. And everybody goes, whoa, that was there? Because devs are sneaky. But the fact of the matter is, retro gaming does have its downsides when it comes to money. Because there's some games you can buy, and they are cheap as chips, to put it in the words of David Dickinson. But there are some retro games out there that are hideously expensive, to a level that's, you know, severe brown trouser time. It's like, you want how much? And then you consider that some games, you know, like on the cartridge-based systems, they've got a little battery inside. When that battery dies, that game dies. You know, you can't save your progress. Yes, in some cases you can replace the battery, but then once you replace the battery, you do knacker some of the collectability of that retro title, and that's some of what both helps and hinders being a retro gamer. The collection aspect. How many times on YouTube have you seen some guy with a big wall of games? You know, it's like this, and it's there, and you go, look at my stuff. Basically, it's like a, you know, it's a peeing contest. Let's be fair. You know, look at my wall of games. Am I not a gamer? You know, which is cool for some people. Don't get me wrong. You know, I'd love to have a massive game collection, but I'm skint. So I play my games, I trade my games, I get new games. That's how the cycle's always been for me, and imagine it's always probably going to be for me till physical games are completely wiped out, which will be a sad day. And that's the other thing, physical games, you know, there's a certain joy to owning something, which retro gamers most certainly experience. But on the other side, the equipment that plays retro games, you know, it wears out. Everything wears out, you know. I mean, there are PS3s out there in the wild that don't work anymore because, you know, the mechanical elements of those systems are dying. The laser reader dies, you know. The disc, sucky-inny, putty-outy motor dies. Hell, even the bit that spins the disc can die. So, how far can you really go in saying that, like, modern systems are technically can be better? You know, now yes, you could go, well, with digital games, you don't have to worry about moving parts, crashing and burning and dying. Yes, true. However, when it comes to digital games can be removed from stores, can be deleted from stock, you know. Updates can be withheld, you know. And with DRM management and stuff, you know, there's not that much to say that, like, a store owner or a system owner couldn't reach into your system at the back end and delete that game. But put it this way, right? Back from PlayStation 4, if you got a hold of oh, I forgot its name now. That Hideo Kojima thing with the ever-moving corridor. It was going to be Silent Hill, but it wasn't Silent Hill. Oh, brain fart. Dear God. Anyway, so like you could buy that. All right. Well, you downloaded it, but you can't download it again. For a while, there was some jiggity-pokery you could do, You know, like clocks and stuff, and you could get it down again. But they closed that loophole. And it's not that far to imagine that they could just go, yeah, that game, we don't want that to exist anymore, and yoink. But look at Scott Pilgrim versus the World. For years, literally years, you could not download that game. You could not re-download that game if you had previously bought it. You know, like say you accidentally deleted it, or you deleted it because you needed space on your hard drive, on your PS4 or whatever. Yeah, that game was gone, gone. Now, of course, you can play Scott Pilgrim again, but you know, the point still stands that with digital rights management, stuff can just disappear. And when you consider stuff like phones and hospital equipment, the way that people, especially also farmers, don't technically own their equipment, you know, with software fixes and stuff and all the rest of it, you know, they merely lease, you know, the equipment. I mean, if you have an iPhone, for instance, an iPhone's a classic example of this. Like, I mean, just look at anything by Dennis Rodman. Oh, Dennis Rodman? Not Dennis Rodman. I'll forget his name. Anyway, when you have iPhone, okay, and you have damage with your iPhone, like say the battery just stops charging, because let's face it, iPhone batteries are kind of poop. You take that phone in to get a new battery. You have to take it to an actual Apple store, okay, for an Apple technician to open. And then 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you there was water damage. Yeah, water damage. On a phone that's never even seen a drop of rain. You know? And it's like, and therefore they want you to spend hundreds of pounds replacing that phone with a new version of itself. You know? If they think they can get away with it, they'll try and sell you a brand new phone, the tippity line. You know? Because they don't want you to be able to fix your stuff. There are moves in the States to try and bring about laws that allow people to fix their own stuff. You know, or at least to have qualified third-party technicians fix their stuff, because first-party companies less and less want their equipment to be fixed, because if it can be fixed, then it doesn't have to be replaced. If it doesn't have to be replaced, they see that as a loss in sales. Okay, so you have that with modern consoles. You know, you have your modern consoles that can't be fixed, or can be fixed but for an exorbitant price, or can only be replaced, you know, then that means you also lose everything on the hard drive because it's a new system, which means you have to download everything again. So is it really that worth having a completely digital system? And then, of course, as I said before, the old systems break down and are more prone to breaking down. I mean, there's bits of kit in the gaming world, right, that are like 30, 40, sometimes even 50 years old. There's gaming equipment out there older than I am. Think about that. Way older than a lot of members out there in the Zen fam. There's some really old stuff out there, you know. Great stuff, don't get me wrong. I mean, some of the games I've played, you know, at conventions and stuff from retro equipment have been fantastically fun, you know. And it can be really interesting from a gaming anthropological standpoint to go back and play these games and see where we've come from and see where we are and possibly have an idea of where we're going, which is part of gaming culture, which is partly why I set up this channel. So when you start to boil it all down, you start to play the back and forth of retro and modern gaming, I really love you to get typey down below and letting Zenbloke know what you think. Where is the most pleasure derived? Where is the most happy happening for you. Not the gaming community, right? Not one particular platform, right? Not the user base of one particular series of game, but you. Okay? I want to get your point of view in the comment section down below. Where does your happy happen? How do you make your happy happen? And how do you intend to keep making your happy happen? And then from there, expand. You know? Where does the happy happen? How do we continue to make the happy happen in this increasingly worrying and divisive world? You know, how do we find the happy? You know, we sit down after a day of work or a day of school, you know, or a day of studies, whatever it is you do. You know, you might be a chef, you could be a factory worker, you could be a solicitor, a teacher, you know. You've got that small chunk of time to indulge in a bit of gaming. How do you make that happy happen? How do you want to make that happy happen? And how do you hope to spread that happy for your fellow gamers? How satisfied are you, my fellow gamers? I ask. Typey. Alright, so fam. Hashtag support Scottish YouTubers, and of course, as always, I nae bother.